Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Saba Show. Today we are doing our takeaways for the game between the Nets and the Wizards today, where the Nets got up by 14 points, 104-90. If we just get the box score up right now, Kevin Durant top scored for the Nets, 25 points. And that was followed by Patty Mills, who keeps up his strong start to the season with 21 on 5 of 9 from downtown. That was supported by Bruce Brown and also James Harden, who scored 14 apiece. For the Wizards, they struggled all day. Bradley Beal was their top scorer with 19 on pretty poor efficiency. And Spencer Dinwiddie, who had returned to the Barclays Center after having a fairly long stint at the Nets, he was only able to score the 10 points and the 6 assists. Let's just kick things off with the takeaways. The first thing that we have to discuss today is Steve Nash nailing the starting lineup. And ultimately, I think this is what contributed to the win today, because if you look at the box score, you look at the first quarter, we won that one by 18, 38-20, and then outscored by 4 for the rest of the way. So really, it was all done early on in the game, and that's been our struggle for the start of the year. In all 3 games, you will see that we had a slow start to some extent. With the Bucks and Sixers, we went down fairly big, and we slowly worked our way back into the game. With the Hornets, it was a bit less prolonged, but in saying that, it's better to not have a slow start, and today we're able to prove that. Ball movement really helped a lot. The ball was whizzing around the court, and that's ultimately how we got the 38 points. And it really started with starting Bruce Brown. I mean, we were absolutely slandering Nets management for not playing Bruce Brown in the opening 2 games of the season. We saw him in Game 3 against the Hornets. Obviously didn't have as big of an impact as he had today, but I mean, we were able to see his skill set on show, and that's what is so good about him. He adds a really unique skill set. He can score from some really unique parts of the floor, given his size. I think he's 6'4", but he plays like a power forward / center. Loves to set screens, loves to do floaters, loves to roll to the rim. His hustle is welcomed. His strength is welcomed. His energy is welcomed. And I think all of those things really complemented one another in order for us to get off to this really good start. Now, one thing I really wanted to hone in on for our first quarter is I really wanted to see the scoring distribution. And looking at it right now, it will be up on the screen for you to see. Patty Mills with 11 points. That's followed by Durant with 8 and Bruce Brown with 6. You can see that nearly every single player that took to the floor in the opening period got points. You can also see the assist breakdown. Harden already had 5 assists by that point, and he ended with, I think, 9. There's only 2 turnovers involved there. That was a really good aspect of our game today as well, limiting the turnovers. I mean, the shooting percentages are quite high. You can see there's a couple steals and a block involved as well. But just overall, I mean, everyone played their part, and I think, the ball movement was a really, strong part of our success in the opening quarter. But now we'll go to the second period and see what the box score was looking like at halftime. And as you can see, it's a little bit different. You can see that the percentages have dipped for some players. Harden was 2 of 4 in the first period. He ends on 4 of 11. Didn't take a 3, actually took 1. In the second period, he took 4 or 3. That sort of correlated with the ISO ball that we were playing. Only ended with the 21 points in the quarter, so that was part of the problem. And that pretty much sustained itself for the rest of the game. But luckily for us, Washington never got their shot going. And that's been a really strong part of their season so far. So we got a bit lucky there. But yeah, Joe Harris, 2 of 5. Griffin, 1 of 6. KD, I mean, it's KD. Patty Mills only got the 1 shot off, so we probably needed to get the ball in his hands a little bit more. You can see that for the most part, ultimately, KD got 10 points in that quarter and we scored 21. So, yeah. And then Harden ends up getting, I believe, 4. So 14 of the 21 points are accounted for through Durant and Harden. So that just goes to show that we were a bit more ISO ball heavy in that period. And yeah, I think that's one thing we've got to improve. You know, we've got to develop that habit of that really wonderful zip pass play around the perimeter, as opposed to, you know, this ISO ball stuff where Harden's doing step backs and bricking them. And I think we've also got to hone in on Harden and Harris for just a moment. James Harden and Joe Harris, I think they ended up shooting, I believe, 5 of 17 for Harden. That's 1 of 8 3-point shooting. And Joe Harris shooting 3 of 11 from downtown and 3 of 12 from the field, ultimately. Look, I think the key for these two players, they're going to get their shot eventually because we know how capable they are as scorers. Harden isn't getting the foul calls that he's gotten in years gone by. And some of them he's just getting absolutely hacked on a few possessions that he should be getting the foul on. But yeah, 14 points from James, like he's going to up that, you'd imagine, as you know, the refs adjust to this new ruling with the foul calls. They may ease it a little bit. Sometimes, you know, when you're introducing a new rule, sometimes you go a bit too over the top with it in your adjudication of it. And then Joe Harris, I mean, we've seen him have slumps before. Some people are calling for his head, asking him to be traded. This is just a really irrational Nets casual fan take. Yeah, look, he's getting paid 20 mil to shoot threes. Look, I think he plays the Nets way. Like, he tries hard out there. For some people, you're going to say, well, trying hard is not good enough because we're trying to win. But I see it as a positive if he can go 3 of 11 and we win by 14. Ultimately, it was a defensive performance today. And obviously, when we're crying out for an offensive performance, I do believe Joe Harris and James Harden will live up to the occasion. But for the moment, I think it's just them settling back into the regular season and then, you know, them slowly building up their form so they can get their shot back. But I do think they will get their shot back. And earlier on, we touched on it. Bruce Brown, wonderful introduction into the team in the last 2 games. I mean, 14 points today. You know, that's involving a lot of energy. That's involving a lot of hustle efforts. You know, he just brings something. He just brings something. And you know what I'm talking about if you're a Nets fan. But ultimately, I mean, he took 2 3-point shots. We just forget about those. He can take those because I think he was wide open on both. He's not going to hit him at a high clip. But inside, I mean, he probably hit 3 floaters. You know, he's hit a couple bank shots, you know, a couple dunks. You know, he's got a fair bit in his kit bag that he can apply on match day. So, yeah, I think he's just such a positive piece to the team. Brings the defense, brings a unique skill set offensively. His size, you know, the position he plays, it's so unique. And it's really intriguing how other teams cope, you know, with what he can do. Because I mean, he's probably the only person in the league that can do what he does. And speaking of getting some extra minutes, DeAndre Bembry, really good game today. I mean, we talk about the 3 baskets he scored. He ended up on 7 points and 3 rebounds. That's including 2 steals and a block in 18 minutes. But the 3 buckets he got, one of them was, I think, off a steal and a relatively simple finish. The second one was an and one, which he converted, by the way. And the other shot was off a putback. He could easily become similar in the sense that Bruce Brown, you know, came out of nowhere, didn't get too many opportunities early in the season, but was able to find some form in the minutes that he did play, and then was able to convert that to some serious minutes. I mean, he also offered some defense. I think he played on Bradley Beal a fair portion of the time he was on the court, which, I mean, if he can do that, you know, we don't really need much more from him. If he can have that scoring punch, that's an added bonus. But I think he played some really good defense today. And yeah, pretty much provided that same energy, that same spark that Bruce Brown has to offer. And I think that was, you know, I've said it a couple times today on this show. But yeah, I think that was extremely key to us getting off to a good start, number one. And then being able to sustain that, because defense is ultimately what got us this win today. And I think we've just got to give a little bit of credit to Steve Nash. Got a lot of slander in the game previous against Charlotte, where he got severely outcoached. This game, I think he distributed the minutes really, really well. Gave it to the guys that deserved it ultimately. Bembry deserved his 18 minutes. Carter, significant cut down on his minutes from last game, and I think that was the right call. Putting Bruce in the starting lineup, giving only 19 minutes to Blake Griffin. Nick Claxton had a good game, but he didn't get a significant amount of minutes. And then Millsap with 9 minutes, Johnson with 7 minutes. I think they're sensible minute tallies given what they offered. They weren't needed today. The Wizards had, not a very physical team in comparison to what the Hornets were doing yesterday. So I think those guys weren't needed to be called upon. And that's probably why Aldridge also sat out. So it was good to see us performing very, very well, given we had very little contribution from our experienced bigs. Anyway, that's going to be the show for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to drop a like on it. Share your comments regarding the game, all your thoughts as to how the Nets went today. I will respond to them. And subscribe to the show, because we will be doing these takeaway videos as often as possible when I can't stream it. So, yeah, that's going to be all from me. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.